So number 1, do we need to talk about this? I posted the key on PowerSchool with everything. I forget what the answer is. Let's see, this is it. 1-3 is the answer. Again, like, I'm happy to do things, but if we don't need to see it, like, maybe it's best not to spend a bunch of time early on looking at, like, everything where you're like, sure, can you do it? It's like, do you really need to do it? Or do you just like saying that because you haven't done it yet and you're not positive what to do? You know? Okay, you guys want to talk about 3. Okay, we'll do that then. All right. What variable did we choose to try to eliminate first? Okay. So what equations did you add together to eliminate x's the first time? Okay. Call these a plus b, or a and b. So if I do that, I get 5y plus 3z equals 19. Everybody agree with that? Adding equation A and equation B together. That eliminate the x's. We good? Okay. Then what else? What did you do to eliminate x's from the second equation? 2b plus c. Sounds good. I'll write out what 2b is real quick. And then when I add that to c, I'm going to get no x's. I'm going to get 5y's. I'm going to get plus 8z's, and that's going to equal 34. Everybody agree with that? So that's my D, that's my E. So what variable would you like to eliminate from D and E? The y's. Makes sense to me since the leading coefficients on the y's are identical. How are you going to eliminate the y's? Okay, so like maybe we'll do -1 times D and then add it to E. Sound good to you guys there? So it's going to give me -5y minus 3z is equal to 19. And when I add that with the E, I get 0 y's, I get 5 z's, and that's going to equal 15. I can then divide both sides by 5 to get z is 3. Are we still good? Okay. Now, what variable should I solve for next? Y. Great. How am I going to solve for y? Plug the z into one of the previous equations. So like this one, or even that one would be okay. Any place where we have just 2 variables, right? All right. For the sake of argument, let's plug it into this one. Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Alexis. Found our mistake. So that gives me y equals 2. Everybody good with that? What do we still need to find? X. So where are we going to plug, or how are we going to get x? Yeah, plug these two answers into one of the original ones. I'm going to plug it into this middle one. So if I do that, I get x plus 17 equals 18, or x equals 1. So my answer should be 1, 2, 3. Your teacher picked a problem where you got a convenient answer to read aloud. Alexis, did you have a hand up or no? Okay, I thought I saw your hand up for a second.
Are there going to be, I'm just kind of are there going to be problems help with the long stories? Yeah. Are there going to be like short problems on story problems?
Story problems? Yes. You will have a story problem. Everybody, are we feel better about number 3 here? Okay. Again, was this the only way you could have solved 3? No, right? If you chose to eliminate y's first or z's first or some other variable first, like you would have gotten different work, but you would have ended at the same place, right? You would have still gotten should have still gotten the same 1, 2, 3. On the test, what can you do to check your answer on this? Yeah, you could do the RREF on this to start with, so you know what the answer is supposed to be, right? So as soon as you get an answer for X, Y, or Z that contradicts what you know the answer is going to be from the calculator, you could stop and go back and look for your mistake before you kind of carry that forward. You know what I mean, guys? So like Nina says that she accidentally plugged the answer for Z into the wrong spot when she was finding Y. If you knew what the answer was ahead of time, you'd have known that something happened in between my answer for Z and this answer for Y, and you could have gone back to look for that, and you probably would have found it. So that's, again, I recommend doing that. You should do that. Now I need to see work. Like, you can't just write down the answer. That's no good, because I know that the calculator can give you all the answers. And it's nice that you can do it with the calculator, but I need to see you be able to do it by hand also. But there's nothing wrong with knowing what the answer is beforehand. Go ahead and use your calculator to do that. It might make life a little bit easier. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. What do you guys want to talk about next? 6. Sure. Okay. So, what's the first thing we should do before we start multiplying these matrices together? You should check the dimension to make sure it's even possible to do this multiplication problem, right? What's the dimension of this first matrix B here? That's a 3 by 2. And the dimension of the matrix D is 2 by 2. And the dimension of the matrix C is 2 by 2. Can I multiply these together? Yes. So notice this dimension matches, and those dimensions match. So certainly we can multiply this together. Okay? So we have two options here. We can multiply those two together first, or we could multiply those two together first. Does it matter? Does not. Let's just, for the sake of argument, do the first two matrices together first. Sound good? Okay. The answer I'm going to get is going to be a 3 by 2. How do I know what the dimension of the answer is going to look like? Yep. Yeah, the first and last. That's what you did. So, how do I get, what two things do I multiply together to get the first entry in my answer? I multiply row 1 by column 1. So I do 1 times 5 plus 4 times 2. And then my next answer is going to come from row 1 and column 2. So 1 times negative 6 plus 4 times negative 2. And so on and so forth. So 0 times 5, negative 3 times 2. 0 times negative 6, negative 3 times negative 2. Then negative 2 times 5 plus 1 times 2. Negative 2 times negative 6 plus 1 times negative 2. And that's still going to be multiplied by this other matrix. So I'm still going to leave that there. When I simplify here, let's see, I have 5 plus 8. So that's going to give me 13. And then I have 0 minus 6. So that's negative 6. I have negative 10 plus 2. So that's negative 8. I have negative 6 plus negative 8. That's negative 14. I have 0 plus 6. That's 6. And I have 12 minus 2. So that's 10. Everybody okay to hear? Okay. Now I'll do that matrix multiplication process one more time. So the same thing, because I'm multiplying a 3 by 2 by a 2 by 2, I know my answer is going to be 3 by 2. To get my first entry, I'm going to do row 1 times column 1. And then row 1 by column 2. Oops, that is not the right things there. There we go. And then I'll do row 2 times column 1. And then row 2 times column 2. And then row 3 times column 1. And then row 3 times column 2. And when I simplify that all down, let's see, what do I get? I get negative 30, 45, 12, 18, 24, and 36. Yes, sir. Of course. Mm-hmm. We okay on that one? I can't remember who asked about this one. That was you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel better about that? Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Alyssa. Did I do that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I had to pause and think about it for a minute. Shouldn't the 45 be negative? Yes, it should be. Thank you, Alexis. Good catch. Okay. Who's next? So just actually, before we take the next one, just to reiterate, this amount of work that I've shown as the expectation for the test is that at minimum, I need to see like these matrices that show me how you multiply things together. Again, can you check this on your calculator? Yeah. Right? You know exactly what the answer is going to be on the calculator. I need to see those steps that I've circled in highlighter along the way, but you should not get the problem wrong, or should not write down the wrong answer. You know, you should know what the right answer is, right? You know what I mean, guys? So if you make a mistake along the way, you should know it and be able to go back and be like, oh, look at that, I multiplied row times row instead of row times column or something like that, you know. Okay. Thank you. Who's next then? 13. We'll start there. So give an example of a determinant that is undefined. Okay? So remember, what kinds of matrices can you take the determinant of? Think about the two kinds of determinants we've talked about. We know this works if you have a 2 by 2, right? And if you have a 3 by 3. What do those have in common? They're square matrices. So what kind of matrix is not going to be able to take a determinant of? A non-square matrix. So like something like that is undefined. So any non-square matrix would be fine. As an example there. And then which other one did you want to have? 14 is just a pain in the butt. Okay, so I'm going to cheat a little bit and pick some matrices to make my life a little bit more convenient. Let's see. When I did this, I chose to use So I picked these matrices, and what I need to show is that that works out. Okay? So I would just do my matrix multiplication. In this first piece, I get 2 minus 1 times 1 minus 1, and then 2 minus 2, and negative 1 plus 2. And I still have that other matrix hanging there. And here I don't even need to bother multiplying anything out. Why don't I need to bother multiplying here? Who's this guy? The identity matrix, right? What's anything times the identity? Itself. Woo! All right, so let's see here. I have 1, 0, 0, 1 times 1, 0, 0, 1. And when I multiply these two together, look, I've already done that, didn't I? Guess what it equals? And I know if I multiply the identity times the identity, it just gives me the identity back. And so I'm done. Now, you can pick any 2 by 2 matrices and this works. I chose these ones because I was lazy and didn't want to do like 4 sets of matrix multiplications. So I cheated a little bit and chose like this guy would be like my A. That guy was like A inverse, and that was I. And that made life really easy to do the multiplication because I'm a sneaky jerk. But literally any 3 2 by 2 matrices this works for. So you don't even, it requires nothing special. You know. Of course. So I just wanted to make sure I picked 3 different ones. You know, I didn't want to use like the zero matrix 3 times or something silly like that. Although I guess technically, because I didn't put that in the directions, you could have done that. That would be okay. I mean, you followed the directions, so I can't really mark you down on something like that if it was the exact same wording. You know what I mean? Those were the two that you wanted, though, Alexis? Or these two? Okay. Who else has some that they want to talk about? Going once. Going twice. Sold. All right. Moving on to other things.